Yes, friends, welcome back. Okay, so I am Sunil Desai, and you are back to Galaxy Online Learning powered by Galaxy Tutorials. In the last lecture, I just told you of history. This was the third lecture. I told you that in the next lecture, this is the fourth lecture, we are going to visualize nations. Because after all, nation is an abstract idea. Okay, so artists in the 18th and 19th century, they found a way out of by personifying a nation. Okay, in other words, they represented a country as if it were a person. Okay, and nations were then drawn as female figures. The female figure was chosen to personify the nation, did not stand for any particular women in real life. Okay, rather it sought to give the abstract idea of nation just a concrete form, so that the common people will identify with it. That is, the female figure became an allegory or a symbol of the nation. Okay? In the French Revolution, there were so many other symbols, like there were the symbols of the red cap, which symbolized liberty, or the broken chain, which symbolized liberty. Then justice is generally symbolized by a blindfolded woman. And what is she holding? A pair of weighing scales. So, similarly, female allegories were invented by artists in the 19th century to represent a nation. In France, the woman was Christian Marianne. It's not some real life Marianne, it's just a popular name in Christian name, which underlined the idea of a people's nation. Her characteristics were drawn from those of liberty and the republic. The red cap, the tricolor, the cockade, statues of Marianne were erected in public squares to remind the public of the national symbol of unity and to persuade them to identify with it. Marianne images were marked also on coins and stamps. The image of Marianne were also printed on coins, on stamps. Okay, so that people should always connect with it, the French people. Similarly, Germania became the allegory of the German nation. The female version, the female form of the nation, German nation, was called Germania. In the picture of which you will find on page number 23. In visual representations, Germania wears a crown of oak leaves. See on the hair, there is a crown of oak leaves, as the German oak stands for heroism. There are different attributes and the significance of that attribute. Okay, now the broken chain which you see at the feet of Germania, that significance being free, means Germany is now free. Okay, it's a free country now. Then you see the breastplate with eagle. Now, the breastplate with eagle signifies the symbol of the German Empire, the symbol, the strength of the German Empire. Okay. Then the crown of oak leaves, that is the significance of heroism. Then the sword which is in the hand, the that shows ready to fight. And the olive branch around the sword shows that we are ready to fight, but we are also willing to make peace. If you are ready, then we are ready for peace too. Okay? Then the black, red and gold tricolor. That signifies what? Flag of the liberal nationalists in 1848, which was banned by the dukes of the German states. And the rays of the rising sun, which you see are, what do they signify? They signify the beginning of a new era. You see the picture of Germany guarding the Rhine in 1860. This was drawn by Lawrence Clausen. The inscription on Germania's sword reads, "The German sword protects the German Rhine, the river Rhine." Okay, so this is how the nations were visualized. Okay, so in a concrete form, they were personified so that people can connect with it. Now coming to the sixth unit, the last unit of this chapter, nationalism and imperialism. How nationalism and imperialism got connected. Okay, by the last quarter of the 19th century, that is in the last 25 years of the 19th century, nationalism was no longer, it had no longer retained its idealistic of liberal and democratic sentiments. Understood? The sentiments of nationalism had changed. It was no longer related to democratic or liberal sentiment, which was in the first half of the century. It became a narrow creed with limited ends. During this period, nationalist groups became increasingly intolerant of each other and always ready to go to war. The major European powers, in turn, what did they do? They manipulated the nationalists in Europe to further their own imperialist aims. So the nationalists started fighting among each other, and the imperialists, they took advantage of this and they started using this nationalism for their own purpose. The most serious source of nationalism tension in Europe after 1871 was the area called Balkans. The Balkans was a region of geographical and ethnic variations. There were a lot of geographical variations as well as there were variations in ethnicity in that area. This Balkan area consists of the modern day Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, Macedonia, Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Slovenia, Serbia and Montenegro, whose inhabitants were broadly known as the Slavs. A large part of the Balkans was under the control of the Ottoman Empire. The spread of the ideas of romantic nationalism in Balkans, together with the disintegration of the Ottoman Empire, made this region very, very explosive. All through the 19th century, the Ottoman Empire had sought to strengthen itself through modernization and internal reforms. But there was very little success to it. The Ottoman Empire had tried to modernize itself, but it was not successful. It wanted to strengthen itself through modernization, but it was not successful. One by one, the European subjects of the Ottoman Empire started disintegrating. Okay, they started breaking up and they started declaring independence. The Balkan peoples also based their claims for independence or political rights on nationality and use history to prove that they had once been independent but had subsequently been subjugated to the foreign dynasty. Hence, the rebellious nationalists in the Balkans thought of the struggles as attempts to win back their freedom, their long lost independence. Okay. As the different Slavic nations struggled to define their identity and their independence, the Balkan area became an area of intense conflict. The Balkan states, since they had different ethnicity, were jealous of each other and each hoped to gain more territory at the expense of the others. Okay, since they had different ethnicity, they were jealous of each other and each one wanted to be superior to take hold of others' territories. Matters were further complicated because the Balkans also became the source of power rivalry. Means many European powers, they started looking, since all the Balkan states were fighting among each other, the great powers of Europe, they thought now they should take advantage of it. Okay. So, the great powers of Europe, the Russia, Germany, England, Austria, Hungary, was keen on countering the hold of other powers over the Balkans. They wanted to control, each one of them wanted a control over this Balkan area. This led to a series of wars in the region and finally it resulted in what? The First World War. This was one of the reasons of the First World War. So nationalism aligned now with imperialism. Now nationalism was not aligned with democracy, with liberalism. It was now aligned with imperialism. This led Europe to disaster in 1914. But meanwhile, many countries in the world which had been colonized by the European powers in the 19th century began to oppose the imperial domination of these European powers. The anti-imperial movements had started everywhere and the nationalists, in the sense that they all struggle for their independent states, independent nation states, were inspired by a sense of collective national unity. So that was now the difference. See, in Europe what was happening? Nationalism was connected to imperialism. But in the colonial states where these imperial powers were ruling, nationalism was connected to freedom, to forming their independent national states. And they were inspired by a sense of collective national unity and they forged in confrontation with imperialism. Okay? So European ideas of nationalism were nowhere replicated and so there was a difference between the nationalism of the colonial states and the nationalism of Europe. But the idea that societies should be reorganized into nation states came to be accepted as natural and universal. So one thing happened now, that all over the world people started believing in having their own nation states. It was considered as a very natural and a universal way. Though there were differences in the nationalism of colonial states and the nationalism which changed from liberal democratic way to imperialism in Europe. This was totally different compared to the nationalism in the colonial countries where this imperial power ruled. That's all in this chapter on the first chapter of history, Nationalism. So, once again, I'll remind you of going through the book, reading the textbook very carefully, then going through this question and answers, mention all the question and answers of for practice, the 1 mark questions, the long answer questions, the brief questions which have already come in the exams before, the board exam, all have been, we have tried to incorporate all of this question answers in this. So, first read the textbook, then go through all this from the study pack. And if you have not yet got the study pack, please register yourself as early as possible and get the study pack and start studying. Okay? Thank you.